This is Duke University.
Grimus, 1975. Midnight's Children, 1981. Shame, 1983. The Satanic Verses, 1988. Haroun and the Sea of Stories, 1990. The Moor's Last Sigh, 1995. The Ground Beneath Her Feet, 1999. Shalimar the Clown, 2005. The Enchantress of Florence, 2008. Luca and the Fire of Life, 2010. These are just 10 of Mr. Salman Rushdie's 18 or more books that you've heard about, if not read in their entirety, and we are indeed fortunate to be able to welcome him to Duke University for the annual Distinguished Lecture of the Franklin Humanities Institute. Mr. Rushdie's awards include the Whitbread Novel Award that he won twice, the French Prix du Meilleur Livre Étranger for Shame, the Aristeon Prize from the European Union, the Commandeur de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres from France, the Premio Grinzane Cavour from Italy, the Prix Colette from Switzerland, the State Prize for Literature from Austria, the Kurt Tucholsky Prize from Sweden, the Author of the Year from Germany, the Outstanding Lifetime Achievement in Cultural Humanism from Harvard University. Queen Elizabeth II knighted him in June 2007 for services to literature. A member of the American Academy of Arts and Letters, Mr. Rushdie also served as the president of the PEN American Center from 2004 to 2006. Any recitation of these multiple honors also needs to list the Booker Prize, not once, but 3 times. The Booker for Midnight's Children in 1981 was followed by the 25-year award for the Booker of the Bookers for that same novel in 1993, and then, with an even greater sense of inevitability, the 40-year Booker of Bookers Award in 2008, that was by popular vote. The Booker Committee would need to do the equivalent of retiring Mr. Rushdie's jersey or hanging up the dust jacket of Midnight's Children in the rafters above the prize committee's deliberations, as no other contemporary novel may ever garner such popular and literary acclaim. Midnight's Children has demonstrably transformed world literature, even as it inspired incredibly talented South Asian Anglophone writers to follow in its wake. Midnight's Children still presides over these subsequent productions as an unsurpassable standard, a kind of pole star that orients everyone else's literary bearings. Much ink has been spilled trying to characterize what exactly Midnight's Children did to the global novel. Magical realism, a term that awkwardly connects Rushdie to Gabriel Garcia Marquez from Latin America and Günter Grass from Germany, is an imprecise solution, in my view. Another term that might fit some of Rushdie's more monumental works is the one invented by Duke's own celebrated literary critic, Frederick Jameson, and that is the characterization of certain large canvas third world and post-colonial texts as functioning in the form of national allegory, appropriate to the way Midnight's Children makes available the entire history and politics of modern India through a single protagonist, Salim Sinai, or the brilliant way that Shame, Rushdie's novel that succeeded Midnight's Children, does for Pakistan, through a witty actualization of the family feud between 2 political dynasties. Elements of national allegory continue in other Rushdie novels, including The Moor's Last Sigh, that treats Portuguese Goa rather than the more usual Bombay, Shalimar the Clown, that addresses the thorny politics of the Kashmir of Mr. Rushdie's forebears, and The Enchantress of Florence, that flits from the Mughals to the Medicis. By the way, Mr. Rushdie just told me backstage, this is a wonderful and amazingly nice coincidence. Satya, who is Homi Bhabha's son, will be playing Salim Sinai in the movie version of Midnight's Children that's being shot right now with Deepa Mehta on location. So that's a nice coincidence for the Franklin Humanities Institute. Got to grasp at everything you can get. However, by 1988, the terrain undoubtedly shifted to postmodern migrancy and transnational intermixture with the text to which I will now turn. The Satanic Verses begins with a mid-air bomb explosion aboard an Air India flight, AI 420. And as one of the two protagonists, Gibril Farishta, is falling through the air from the plane, he sings from the famous Bollywood musical Shri 420 or Mr. 420, a movie by Bollywood's, sometimes Charlie Chaplin, as he might be referred to, Raj Kapoor. Mera juta hai Japani, ye patloon Englistani, sar pe lal topi Rusi, phir bhi dil hai Hindustani. All right. I'm the warm-up act, so, getting you all excited. So, oh, my shoes are Japanese, these trousers English, if you please. On my head, red Russian hat, but my heart's Indian for all that. Exploding the airplane of national allegory, the Satanic Verses is all about global and multicultural London, and Mr. Rushdie's subsequent novels are a fast-forward realization of a hybrid urban and cosmopolitan ethos, with little bits of nationality attached that create a bewildering composite mixture of the high and the low, classical references and Bombaya street slang, Joycean neologisms and commercial advertising jingles, as well as immigrant aspiration colliding with indigenous insouciance. The presence of this grumbling hive of global vernacular reference, of Hinglish or Hindi English in multifarious directions, is relevant to today's invitation that is also sponsored by the South Asian Student Alliance at Duke, DIA, who have spent all semester discussing, I believe, what does it mean to be South Asian in America. As a last thought, let me say that my first academic publication was a scholarly essay I wrote for the journal Diacritics 20 years ago as a graduate student, both explaining and defending the Satanic Verses in the wake of the global firestorm that was generated by the infamous Payam, or Farsi for message, often mischaracterized as a fatwa, issued by the Ayatollah Khomeini on Valentine's Day of 1989. A day of romance was turned with bitter irony into a declaration of war against an alleged apostate. Mr. Rushdie was, and indeed should be, robustly defended on the grounds of free speech. But the liberal doctrine around free speech is often demonstrably insufficient to describe the power of literature. Tyrants, theocrats, and puffed-up personalities of all sorts tremble because the pen is mightier than the sword. And Mr. Rushdie most effectively wields the weapon of satire, a mode of literary representation that is deliberately caustic, ridiculing and exposing hierarchy, fraudulence, arrogance, and tyranny. Rushdie's barbs have exploded the likes of Khomeini, but have also cut down to size the world's Indira Gandhis, Zia-ul-Haqs, Benazir Bhuttos, and Margaret Thatchers through fictional foils and indirect resonances rather than direct references. At the same time, Rushdie's fictional worlds are floated into infinitely elusive levels of narrative in the manner of the Arabian Nights or the famous classical Indian stories collection, the Kathasarita Sagara, or the inexhaustible ocean of story. The paradox of literature's power, incarnated through Mr. Rushdie's novels, show that words create wondrous new worlds, but these very alternative realities can also wound those who are unprepared to welcome them, and who can lash out with horrific consequences to others and even to themselves. But the refusal of imagination is not an option. No one can justify this fundamental insight better than Mr. Rushdie does through the Persian scribe Salman in the Satanic Verses, and I quote, "A poet's work is to name the unnameable, to point at frauds, to take sides, start arguments, shape the world, and stop it from going to sleep, unquote. Mr. Rushdie's talk today is entitled Public Events, Private Lives, Literature and Politics in the Modern World. Please welcome a brilliant raconteur, an intrepid provocateur, and possibly the world's greatest living auteur, Salman Rushdie.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.